Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with hot take on the government winning and losing. Right, Joan? Government winning and losing. That's going to be the theme of this one. You want to come up here? All right. Remember this guy? Trump. Yeah, he was president a while back. He's got something to say. Joe Biden is allowing America to be, quote, destroyed. Chide successor for creating a terrible thing to see. Former President Trump on Tuesday blasted Biden for reversing immigration policy implemented over the last 2 years in response to the 2019 border crisis. Quote, when I was president, our southern border was in great shape. I can't do Trump. Stronger, safer, more secure than ever before, Trump said in a statement. We ended catch and release, shut down asylum fraud, and crippled the vicious smugglers, drug dealers, and human traffickers, he said. Our country is being destroyed at the southern border. A terrible thing to see. Yeah, it hasn't happened yet, but this isn't good. This isn't good. But it doesn't stop there. I know, doggy, I know. Schumer says, remember this guy? He's still in power for some reason. Hope GOP will work with us now that they see we can do it without them. So that's about what it's like working with the Democrats. They come to you and they say, well, you can see now your vote doesn't matter. Won't you just vote with us and save us all a lot of time? Is that what you consider working with people? I mean, during an interview aired on Tuesday's broadcast of CNN's AC 360, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer stated that getting, quote, big, bold change done is the most important priority of Democrats, and that he hopes, quote, that now Republicans have seen we can do it without them, so they'll realize they ought to try to work with us. Everything Schumer says is just disingenuous and lying. I mean, even when Trump had the ball, the Republicans were willing to work with the Democrats a little. The Democrats are not willing to work with Republicans. They basically set their policy and say, well, why won't you vote for it? I mean, where is the compromise? I don't see it. And when Democrats couldn't win through their votes, they either changed the system or they got their minions to protest or complain in the media. So this is just, let's browbeat the Republicans. And the Republicans should not tolerate it. They should just fight them. They should just vote against them to spite them. This idea, well, we'll vote for some things that they're going to pass anyway because it'll make us look reasonable. Nah. The Dow soars to record high as shimmying Nancy hammers home Biden's $1.9 trillion relief bill, 1,400 to hit accounts next week as president secures biggest win since taking office, all without a single GOP vote. This isn't a win. This is a disaster. This is going to drive up prices. This is going to devalue the currency and usher in another recession. If we're lucky. If we're lucky, it'll only be a recession rather than a depression or the collapse of the dollar. Congress is ramming through unbelievable things at a rapid pace. This must be stopped, she said. No need to enslave the American people in more debt. That was Georgia Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She tried to stop it. Good for her. Good for her. This is more incredible debt. But the Democrats don't care because they'll say in the short term, see, we gave you money. Vote for us. It's your money, dummy, if you believe that. And really, they're giving $1,400 of $5,000 or $10,000 that you're going to owe, that you'll never pay back. And on the top of that, a $300 boost in weekly unemployment benefit instead of $400. A change the Senate made over the weekend. Wow! This is, again, socialism light, communism light, whatever you want to call it. They're trying to push through UBI because they're hardheads who don't understand economics. UBI, or some version of it, cannot work. It cannot work. Because once everybody has $1,000, that $1,000 is worth nothing. It's worth nothing. Because everybody knows you have it. And that's not how prices work. Prices work because of supply and demand. And by flooding the market with more dollars, it doesn't drive down the price of anything other than the dollars. So it raises the price of everything. If you run an apartment building and you don't want homeless people to rent your apartments, you'll know that you cannot charge $1,000 a month if the government's giving everybody $1,000 a month, because then everybody could afford them. And you don't want everybody in there. You don't want homeless drug addicts with government checks in your apartment building. So you raise the price of rent. And the guys down the street who have a slightly better apartment building, they're catering to sort of, not high-end, but sort of mid-level workers. Well, they raise their prices too because they don't want the poorer people in their apartment building. And then the high-end apartments raise their prices too because they don't want the mid-level guys in. Everybody raises their prices. So it's pointless. The only people who get screwed in this are the people at the very bottom who now have a bunch of money that's worthless. It's absolutely worthless. Biden is bribing him. It's what he's trying to do. And, it surged the Dow, so he can call that a win for however many weeks that lasts. But it's not something that's going to be a long-term solution to anything. Bit of good news. Texas Democrat Vicente Gonzalez, remember him? Closes Bank of China account after Breitbart News investigation exposed it. Well, good. I'm glad he did. He should. Gonzalez's most recent financial disclosure forms list holdings worth more than $100,000 in the Bank of China. Good. He closed it down. Great. I'm glad he did. Anyone else with money in the Bank of China or money in China who are in Congress or in the government should also close their accounts. Get your money out of China. That he did it is great. My only worry now is, do the Democrats know we're going to war with China? Is that why he did it? But hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully he was just embarrassed and actually has a little shame. Joe Biden prioritized migrant youth education services as many U.S. children are shut out of classrooms. Yeah. See, your kid can't go to school, but somebody coming across the border who hasn't been tested for the beer virus yet, they need schooling. They have to be in a class right away. They don't have to be tested. They get to come in, be in a class. That's Joe Biden's priority. Get everybody in here. He's like that, a guy running a retail store where they quick bring you in, take your order, and then you have to wait forever to get it. That's the way he is. So he's trying to bring in all these people, promising them the moon and the stars, hoping they're going to vote Democrat, flooding the market with what he sees that are Democrats, and then cutting them loose, hoping they'll go on a welfare program or whatever, and who cares? Who cares if they get an education or a drain on society? I don't think a lot of them will be, but with such a terribly low bar to just let people in, we won't just get the hardworking migrants. or illegal aliens, I should call it. We won't get people who want to come here legally. We'll get everybody, including criminals. Because when you commit crimes in another country and you manage to escape that country, you have to go somewhere else. And America is a great place to disappear, especially if you're an illegal alien. Because there's already a network of illegal aliens to hide you. And they aren't hiding you because they know you're a criminal. They're hiding you because they think, oh, well, you're in our situation. You just want a better life. So the criminal gangs will exploit this. They've done it for hundreds of years. They come into the country and they commit crimes amongst their own people. Understand that when the Italian mafia came in the early 1900s, late 1800s, they exploited mostly other Italian immigrants because those people knew what the mafia was. Most people didn't. The same thing's happening with Chinese immigrants, with Mexican immigrants, with any kind of immigrant you can name in mass in the United States. There's a criminal element and they prey on their own people. That's why the Mexican cartels are so big in the United States. There's millions of people to prey upon. They cannot go to the police. They're already here illegally. And therefore they get exploited, not just by corporations, but by criminal gangs. Joe Biden is happy about that because he thinks they'll all vote Democrat. And here's another Democrat, Gavin Newsom, state of the state. I have made mistakes, but we own them. What do you mean we? You should own them. You made the mistakes. You went to the French Laundry during the pandemic, which wasn't a mistake. You just ignored your own rules. Will you recall this idiot already? McCall, by summer you'll see somewhere around 1 million people trying to enter the U.S. illegally. Biden created a humanitarian crisis. This is Representative Michael McCall of Texas, Republican. And yeah, he's got to hear about all the migrants because most of them end up in Texas, at least for a time. He said, President Biden says he wants us to be humane. He actually created a humanitarian crisis. These poor children, they get trafficked all the way up that dangerous route, and now we don't have enough detention space to put them in. And then you've got the beer virus crisis down there as well. I think they have created this Biden border crisis. They need to fix it. He added, I think it's not only a threat to these children who are being exploited, but they know the laws in our country. But it's also a threat to Americans, this population coming in. Biden has cut off these agreements with Mexico, Central America, where they'd have to stay in Mexico to apply for asylum. And now, I've seen this before. I predict that by this summer you're going to see, as my governor said, probably somewhere around 1 million people trying to get into this country illegally. Yeah, it's all about crushing Texas, turning Texas blue. And the Democrats think this is the way to do it. Maybe they're right, at least in the short term. But the Republicans have to get on board with recruiting these people for voting. And then things would change. Because then the Democrats won't be so hot to let everybody in. Utah Governor Spencer Cox signs law allowing concealed carry without permit. So a little bit of good news. At least you can defend yourself in Utah. China slams U.S. hyping up threat to Taiwan after Admiral predicts takeover within 6 years. Yeah, I'm surprised they don't just roll in right now. A top Chinese foreign ministry official has accused the Pentagon of seeking to hype up China's threat to Taiwan in order to further bloat military budgets and expand U.S. presence off China's coast. One can only hope. On Tuesday, Admiral Phil Davidson, the top U.S. commander over the Indo-Pacific region operation, gave testimony on the growing China threat before Congress. He highlighted the growing PLA military capabilities to jeopardize freedoms of navigation, overflight, and other lawful uses of the sea and compromise regional peace and stability. Yeah, it's bad because Biden looks weak. Biden accepted money, or his son did, and he got some of it from China. So, you know, Admiral Davidson's positing a timeline of China to take control of the democratic island within 6 years. That appeared to rile Beijing. Yeah, I could see it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they took Taiwan earlier than that. You know? I mean, they don't want to wait until Biden's out. Do it while he's in. He's weak. That's what they should do. But, you know, the military was beefed up under Trump, so maybe not. I don't know. What I do know is Biden is definitely the wrong guy. He's definitely, I mean, maybe Kamala would be better. I don't know at this point. I think anybody would be better. At least Kamala would be coherent and wouldn't have the excuse of, like, shutting down question time. She might have the gall to just answer the questions anyway. I don't think she's been bribed by China like Biden is, so get Kamala in there. California killer expecting early release. Toast DA George Gascon. Dorset was sentenced to 40 years to life for shooting a rival gang member in the head at close range back in 2005. A convicted killer was captured on video celebrating his California prison cell after learning that Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon had issued a new directive calling for the possible resentencing of inmates following 15 years of imprisonment. Philip Dorset and his cellmate in the new Folsom State Prison are seen toasting Garcon with prison moonshine known as White Lightning. How does this even get out? Why is he doing this? I mean, this guy was convicted of murder. But this guy has been extremely weird in the position of Los Angeles DA. He is, I believe he was the guy who made some weird statement towards some victim's family and then had to apologize for it. And I think they are trying to recall him as well. I think they probably should. I mean, crime is out of control in California, and there's no mystery. It's because they closed the state down. Senate confirms Merrick Garland as Biden Attorney General in bipartisan vote. 20 Republicans joined Democrat to confirm Garland. I don't know why, but the Democrats certainly wouldn't have voted for him. You think the Democrats would have given you anything? You shouldn't have voted for him. Yeah, he was going to pass anyway. Let that force Kamala to take the vote. You're not gaining anything by giving him this. But WND probe Soros funded DAs help criminal aliens escape deportation. Elections manipulated by wealthy donors with extreme anti-border agenda. Yeah, I'm not sure what the deal is with George Soros, but I don't know how much longer the guy can live. He's already in the 90s, right? It's like 90-something. But apparently he's hell-bent on replacing all our DAs and prosecutors at the state level with people who are pro-immigrant, super left-leaning. I mean, what's happened in Portland is an example of Soros's funding, and it's not a conspiracy theory. These guys got elected and they cut loose left-wing people all the time. As James Lindsay reports, this all goes back to the French intellectuals and the French postmodernists, Marcuse, and he wrote an essay in which he basically said left-wing extremism is okay. It's only the right-wing extremism you have to not tolerate. And this is that in action. So anybody on the right who makes a move gets stomped. Anybody on the left gets cut loose by these guys because they think they're saving the world, because they think Antifa's great, that socialism's great, that we just need to try UBI. These idiots don't know what they're doing. And more than that, they have bought into this idea that they could get something for nothing, that they could get funded by this guy. Oh, and it's no big deal. I'm my own person. So, Soros can fund me if he wants, but we just happen to agree. No, that's BS. You agree with him because of the money, because it makes it easier for you. And if he wasn't there, if everybody else wasn't doing it, you wouldn't be, if people were saying, oh my God, that's so dishonest, you wouldn't be doing that. You're doing it because everybody else is, because this is a trend and you're caught up in it. The left, the extreme left, is a trend. And Soros is pushing that. Now, I don't know what he gets out of this. I guess somewhere down the road he thinks that America's going to be better off with socialism, or I don't know, is he working for the Chinese? Do the Chinese have something on him? It's very strange to me that he would push this. And it's getting out of hand. But fortunately, he won't live forever. New York Democrats introduced bill to teach 5-year-old kids about transgenderism in public schools because, the most important thing you could teach a child at 5 is about transgender people. This is just not information they need to know. 5-year-olds do not need this information. It's too much. It's too grown up. Sexual orientation and something this complicated, most adults don't understand transgenderism. You're going to try to teach 5-year-old kids? It's not about teaching them. You're trying to make sure they accept it. And by doing that, you're just fueling the transgender trender mothers out there. Look at this woman. I heart my transgender child. Is that sign really about the kid, or is it about her? I think it's about her. I think it's about her. Look how happy she is. The kid is like, she's there. She doesn't look unhappy, but she doesn't look like as happy as the mom. This is, again, a trend. This is about people feeling good about themselves. And this is a grown-up decision that should be made by a grown-up, not by a child. And adults should not be pushing either way. Just let the kid grow up and be a kid and play with other kids. Yes, there's going to be some conflict. Yes, some kids are going to say mean things because kids say mean things and they push each other and they do bad things. But this idea that you can control them all and that you can make them think in certain ways is a terrible, terrible idea. You just need to let the kids grow up. Then they can make up their own mind. And finally, Mike Pence planning South Carolina speech as 2024 GOP primary looms. Are you kidding me? 2024 looms? It's 3 years from now. When's the primary? Isn't the primary in God, it must be in 2023? And you got to be kidding me if you think Pence is going to get any traction. The base hates him now. Absolutely hate him. What is he thinking? He must be living in a fantasy world, along with the Democrats who expect him to be a problem. I hope they do. I hope the Democrats, spend all their time and energy making sure Mike Pence gets railroaded, because he ain't going anywhere. I'm telling you right now, the base, no. They see Pence as a betrayer. He'll never. He'll get some neocon votes. The guys who would vote for John Kasich will vote for Pence. Then what? Even those guys got to look at Pence and go, well, he was Trump's VP, man. How much he doesn't have the base, Trump's base, and he doesn't have the anti-Trump base. Everybody outside of the Trump supporters hates Trump so much, they probably hate Pence too. They're not going to say, well, in the end, he kind of betrayed Trump, so we like him. No, they're not going to vote for him because of that. He's still a Republican. They're still going to call him anti-gay. Oh, they haven't canceled him yet, but they're gonna. Oh, they're gonna cancel him hard. When he runs for president, he doesn't stand a chance. The media's gonna obliterate him. They're just waiting because, they want to obliterate him at the right time to help the Democrat. So they would love for him to get a little bit of traction and then stomp on him. So, Trump is the guy to follow. Trump is the guy who gets it. He knows what's happening. He sees it. He's got vision. And his policies worked. So, and he's going to be standing on the sidelines, whether he runs or not, saying, Joe Biden's destroying America. The Democrats are destroying America. And more people are going to start buying into it. Because you already got 75 million people. Now watch the economy implode. What do you think's going to happen when the economy goes to hell? I just read you an article yesterday about a woman who had to admit that only the Republicans give a crap about her and her job. The Democrats are too busy destroying everything in their mad rush to get everybody's taxes so they could fund even more programs for the poor and migrant workers who they hope will vote for them. Oh, we got to spread out the money for everybody so the Democrats are in power forever. That's the real plan here. Never mind that they're going to collapse the economy. They are like children. And the people who follow them are even more childlike. So, I don't know. Grow up, America.